Even your dad was not so annoying. Chu Qiao's upper half body was completely drenched. Renir lifted his head up as he continued to make noise. His plump hands grabbed onto Chu Qiao's clothes and struggled to get out of the tub. His action clearly showed his distaste for bathing. Chu Qiao, as if she did not see anything, patted the child's head and said, "I'm going to sing a song for you. Listen up. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away." Her gentle voice was like a hypnotic incense as it drifted in the air. The lights in the room gave off a feeling of warmth. The woman dressed in white squatted on the ground. Her hair hung over her shoulder. The child was placed in a black wooden basin. The woman was very emotionally invested in her song, but the child did not seem to pay attention to her. They grabbed at each other's limbs, as the child in the basin tried to break free while the woman outside was trying to restrain him. Despite this, she managed to keep the tone of her song gentle. No one understood what she was singing as her voice started to sound like Renir. Their words were bizarre, but through her gentle voice, the emotions in her songs could be felt. She seemed like a caring mother, but resembled more of a devoted lover. Thud! The basin fell to the ground. Renir crawled out of the basin, naked, as he laughed. He squinted his eyes, causing his to appear much like his father. The room was a mess. Chu Qiao's clothes had been drenched. She looked at the child in a daze, as she was reminded of Xiao Su. She opened her eyes wide and said angrily, "You're gone. Yet you left this calamity for me." Renir chuckled as they crawled towards the outside of the door, pinching his butt cheeks. Chu Qiao was about to hold him back, but she noticed the man standing by the door. He had seemingly been standing there for a long time. The lights from the Commodore shone on his handsome face. He had a deep look in his eyes while his skin was fair. However, he did not appear as a weakly scholar, but more of an aristocrat. He leaned by the side of the door and looked at her with interest. His expression was lazy, he did not smile, yet his eyes signaled his pleasure at that instant. She was stunned. Perhaps she had been bewitched by a handsome guy. Renir crawled to the door as he continued to pinch his butt. As he saw the unwelcome guest in front of him, he looked up and prepared to scream. However, he subconsciously realized that his height did not even exceed the opposition's boots. Hence he chose to remain silent. He sat there and thought to himself for a while. He looked back at Chu Qiao, then at Yuanyu, and then at the crib beside the bed. Finally, after seemingly engaging in an internal conflict in his heart, he sighed and tugged at Yuanyu's sleeve. Yuanyu lowered his head and looked at him, realizing that he was pointing at a bunch of small swords, carved out of jade, hanging by his waist. This accessory was specially put on by Yuanyu himself to go with his clothes. It appeared shiny and bright under the lights. Yuanyu unfastened it and handed it over to the child. Renir put it in his mouth and bit it twice, but was unable to taste anything. He held the object tightly in his hands and crawled out of the door. The chubby kid crawled over to the room beside Chu Qiao's and sat on the ground, using his logs to kick the door. Medong opened the door sleepily. Upon seeing him, she squealed in delight and carried the child in her arms. She walked out and looked towards Chu Qiao's room and saw Yuanyu. She blushed in joy and nodded at Yuanyu, before retreating back to her room with the child. The troublesome fellow was out of the picture. Yuanyu thought to himself, although this lad is troublesome, he's as skilled as his dad when it comes to these types of things. He closed the doors of Chu Qiao's room and walked to her. He looked down on her and reached out his hand. Still not getting up? Chu Qiao felt a little embarrassed as she frowned. What had gotten into her? Had she been bewitched by lust? She did not reach out her hand, choosing to get to her feet herself. As she moved, her legs buckled as she slipped, falling towards the ground again. However, before she fell to the ground, Yuanyu grabbed her waist to break her fall as his warm hand made contact with her skin. Her drenched clothes were unable to hide her wholesome figure, making it appear more seductive instead. She had squatted for too long, causing her legs to become numb. When you carried her onto the bed, her hair had been drenched, with water dripping out. Her clothes had been drenched. It seemed more like she had been put into the basin instead. She had squatted for too long, causing her legs to become numb. When you carried her onto the bed, her hair had been drenched, with water dripping out. Her clothes had been drenched. It seemed more like she had been put into the basin instead. When you draped a blanket over her and stood by the side of the bed as he said, "Don't catch a cold." The lights in the room gave off an intimate ambience as it shone on his face. He took a piece of dry cotton cloth and wrapped it around her hair. He stood in front of her and dried her hair meticulously, but remained silent. She felt the room heat up in an instant as beads of sweat trickled down her face and into her clothes. A few strands of hair fell in front of her forehead and blurred her line of vision. Through her hair, she saw a few patterns of clouds embroidered onto his white outfit, causing her to feel dizzy. "What were you singing just now?" You asked with a gentle, hoarse tone which was alluring for a man. She looked up and saw his handsome face. She smelt the fragrance of his body, which was almost hypnotizing. You, seeing that she did not answer his question, frowned slightly and asked again, "Xinger? You are my sunshine." You was stunned and asked, "Is that your hometown language?" "Yes." Chu Qiao nodded honestly. "Sing it again for me." His voice seemingly carried a special force within it tonight, causing her to not want to bicker with him, which was unlike the usual. She took 2 deep breaths as she started to sing out in a soothing tone. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray." The song took them down the memory lane once again as they revisited the past times. From the first time that they met, to the times they were after each other's lives, life was like a piece of barren wasteland. The location of the traps and lifelines within war unknown. He stood in front of her, drying her hair. His long fingers caressed her jet black hair, as if he was trying to stir up the tides of time. The material of his clothes were soft as she leaned her head on his waist, singing her favorite song from her previous life. "You'll never know how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away." The room was warm, which reminded her of the days that she spent in St. Lawrence Orphanage many years ago. The principal of the orphanage was a war veteran who had fought resistance battles for 8 years, and had been on the battlefields of North Korea. He had lost a leg while fighting, but he had managed to bomb an American plane in the process. After he retired, he took his pension money back to his hometown and opened an orphanage to take in those children who had lost their parents. She was different from the other orphans, fortunate enough to have a good grandfather. After that, he provided in her education, used his connections to get her into military school. From then on, she enlisted into the army, becoming a valiant soldier who protected her country.